Hey YouTube, it's Lay Rocket, and it's week number 4 of the college football season and week number 3 of the NFL season. So that means it's time for your annual or weekly, whatever, your weekly report on the Gridiron, which I guess you knew that. That's why you clicked on it. But off we'll go, and we'll first look at the college football games of the week, or the games that I have actually picked or looked at in depth. And most of these games are through the ESPN College Pick'em series. Of course, I mean, you see the advertising for that. So here's the games. At 12 o'clock on ESPN, we have Wisconsin at the Big House in Michigan, home of the Wolverines, number 6th ranked Michigan Wolverines. I look for Michigan to continue their successful winning off of the trip to South Bend, Indiana, and defeat Wisconsin, even though both teams are 3-0. The second game, also at 12 o'clock, featured on ESPN2, Minnesota versus Purdue. Don't know much about Purdue, but I haven't seen or haven't heard much out of the Minnesota in terms of what their running back situation is, and my gut just told me to go with Purdue on this one. Don't ask me why. I don't really have any good, solid reasoning behind it. It was just a kind of a toss-up. At 3:30 Eastern Time, we have on ABC. We have Iowa State versus number 8 Texas. All I've got to say about this is hook 'em horn. So, and I think Iowa State will probably make this game very tough, but I still look for the experience of Texas to be a factor, and eventually Texas will win this game. At 4:30 Eastern Time on ESPN2, we have number 4 West Virginia versus East Carolina. West Virginia is 3-0, basically because of their records and because of the way the program has looked thus far. I picked West Virginia because it's a non-conference game, and East Carolina, don't know much about it as far as that is concerned. At 7:45 Eastern Time, back on ESPN, probably the Saturday night game of the week on ESPN, we have the University of Kentucky versus the Florida Gators, the number 5 ranked Florida Gators at that. I pick on this game the Gators because I think they're gonna roll, and seeing how as Kentucky got trounced by Louisville earlier in the year, I don't look for much out of Kentucky as far as that is concerned. Then at 8 o'clock Eastern over on ESPN2, we have number 21 Boston College, the 3-0 Boston College versus North Carolina State in a Eastern. Yeah, I'm not sure. North Carolina State, that is in the ACC, and so actually it's an ACC game, I would imagine. Then again, maybe BC. Forgive me, I'm not sure whether BC is in the Big East or not. I guess I could go look that up. Anyway, I picked BC for this reason because it's another program that I'm very impressed with, and I just think they have a good chance of winning the game. And depending on, again, it all comes down to two things in football, as far as I can see: the ground attack, a team's ground attack versus and also a team defense. If your defense is good and you can pound the ball, you'll be very successful in winning in college football, or winning in football very generally. Next on ABC at 8 o'clock Eastern, we have Notre Dame versus Michigan State, the Spartans. I picked Michigan State. Like I said, Notre Dame didn't really show me much in last week's game versus Michigan, as they got trounced. But I do think Notre Dame needs to come out and respond in this game. But I do predict that Notre Dame will probably fall a little bit farther in the standings. Now the game that I'm particularly interested in is USC versus Arizona in a primetime special, also on ABC. Hopefully they will carry this game in my area, but I did pick USC to win this game. And That's just why I think USC has a very strong chance to be playing for a national championship at the end of the year. Arizona State versus number 20 ranked University of California Golden Bears. Picked Arizona State. They are ranked 18th in the country. They've always been a very solid team. Cal didn't struggled pretty earlier in the year, and I hope Cal can somewhat respond, but I don't. But overall, I do think Arizona State will take this game, and quite handedly, I guess you could say. And at 12:30 p.m. On Saturday afternoon, we have another game of Penn State versus Ohio State. Well, personally, if I was going to go with my personal alliances, I would go with Penn State. However, seeing as Ohio State has been very good thus far, I can't go against that because my gut tells them that they're going to be very successful until the Penn State defense steps up and plays at a higher level. Again, anything can happen in college football. Anything can happen in football in general. This is why we like sports, because nothing is really set in stone. A Division II team has beaten several Division I teams in the past, but I do pick Ohio State to win this game by at least 2 touchdowns, and that's the college football. Now let's go on to the NFL week number 3. First at 1 o'clock at 1 o'clock we have Jacksonville at Indianapolis. Although Jacksonville has played extremely well versus the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the last 2 weeks, I do look for Indianapolis to play very solid in this game. Because I just think Peyton Manning will play very well. I think. It depends on how well Jacksonville's able to. Their offensive line is able to hold up after playing 3-2 especially after the Pittsburgh game, because I felt like Pittsburgh was better defensively, but then again Jacksonville held up pretty well against that. But I still pick Indianapolis to win this game. So it should be an interesting matchup. In an NFC North Division, we have the game of Chicago Bears versus Minnesota. That game is playing at Minnesota. My personal take on this is I like the Bears because I'd like to see how the Minnesota has played Washington. And Washington, I gotta be honest, this will get in my next game, but the Redskins haven't shown me much when it comes to throwing the ball down the field. They're doing a lot of these little screen passes, dump offs, shuffle passes, whatever you want to call it. But it's not anything to brag about and write home to mom about. So they need to do something offensively. And there seems to be some rumor of a quarterback controversy brewing in Washington, and I would be interested in seeing where that goes. But anyway, back to the Chicago Minnesota game. I do pick Chicago to win this game, even though it's played indoors. I think I don't know much about the Minnesota receivers. I've watched a couple games with Minnesota's receivers, and they seem to drop some of the very easiest passes. So that's why I'm going with Chicago in this, because I think the Chicago defense, and at some point, will be able to back Minnesota up and just kind of lay back the ears and just go right at them, Now, here's the game that I was getting ready to talk about: the Washington Redskins versus the Houston Texans. I did pick Washington to win this game, but I do think there has to be something done in Washington. I think this is a battle of 2 teams that are just really struggling for identities, particularly on the Washington side of the ball. I think they need to do some things maybe with their quarterback situation. I think if Brunell doesn't play better this week, you might see Jason Campbell out of the University of Auburn come in and play and see what he can do, because it's not looking good. And pretty soon your team morale is going to look really bad if most of the time when you're playing your defense is going to have to be on the field if you're Washington. Houston, frankly, I think should have went with the Reggie Bush sweepstakes, because they won the right for the Reggie Bush, and they went with the defensive the defensive. Yeah, I think it was the defensive. Mario Williams, the defensive guy. I think he was a lineman, if I don't remember, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Houston, bad management decision as far as I'm concerned. New York Jets versus Buffalo. I like the Jets. The Jets really showed me something last week, again in their close game against the. I'm trying to think who they played last week. Oh, it was the New England Patriots. Yes, and they showed me. I like Lavernius Coles. I like and I just like the way Chad Pennington is played. I think if they stay healthy, they can be a legitimate divisional winner. Miami at Tennessee at Miami. Tennessee is another very struggling team, very confused team right now. They've had the Brian Volix saga. They've got Kerry Collins, who is the reject from the Oakland Raiders system that cannot win. Frankly, he just cannot win. And then they've got their young prodigy that's coming up, and the former UT University of UT grad, or not, I don't think he's a grad, but UT player, which is Vince. Everybody knows, which is Vince Young. And so that's why I go with Miami to win this game. I would like to see Dante Culpepper do better, and I also would like to see the running game featuring the former running back from Auburn, I think it was Brown. Forgive me if the name is wrong on that, but he's the former running back from Auburn that I got to watch. He was the guy that they swapped in and out with Cadillac Williams the last couple of years at Auburn before they graduated. But yeah, that's why I view Miami to win this game in a battle of two winless teams, and one of those two teams is going to be 0-3, and it's going to be a very long season from there as far as I'm concerned. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Even though the defense from Cincinnati has shown me a lot, I look for Pittsburgh to bounce back. I do think that there has to be something wrong with Ben Roethlisberger. If they do play him this week, I'll be surprised, because he didn't look right at all versus Jacksonville on Monday night. And I'm not using that as a crutch for his performance, because you know what, when you put on the uniform and when you go out there and feel, whatever you're feeling goes out the window. You gotta play. But I do look for them to bounce back against Cincinnati somewhat. Though I do have concerns also over their wide receivers. The only guy that I have been told by people that live in the Pittsburgh area is that the only guy that can really catch the ball to some extent is Hines Ward. But we'll go with Pittsburgh, and if Pittsburgh doesn't show me much this week, this may be my last week of the season to pick them for a while. Green Bay at Detroit. Another battle of two very struggling teams. I heard about the walkout that happened in, I guess it was Baltimore in baseball, where the fans, about 1,000 fans, just walked out in the middle of a game, and wearing shirts that said "Free the Birds." I think that I wear one that says "Free the Lions," because the Lions just don't know where that organization is headed as far as that is concerned. But I did pick Detroit over that, because as bad as Detroit has looked thus far, Green Bay has looked far worse. I'm not sure whether, but I do think that Brett Favre is maybe extending his career just a tad bit too long. Baltimore at Cleveland. Even though Steve McNair has had some struggles thus far and he played very shakily during the game last week versus the Oakland Raiders, I did pick Baltimore to win simply because of the defensive factory that Baltimore has. The New York Giants versus Seattle. While the Giants did have a great comeback from behind win last week, Seattle has been very impressive. Seattle has to run the ball a little bit more than they did against Arizona, but I do pick Seattle to win the game on that one. Philadelphia at San Francisco. San Francisco, even though they did beat the St. Louis Rams, the Rams are terrible, are mediocre at best. I did pick Philadelphia to win this game, and St. Louis at Arizona, out in the desert in that new stadium. I've got to look and find out what the name of that new stadium is, but it's a rather nice stadium. and I did pick Arizona to win this game, simply because of the Edgerrin James factor and the Larry Fitzgerald, which are two guys that I think can carry that team if they eventually get Matt Leinart behind the quarterback. Not that I dislike Kurt Warner, because I do think he's a decent player, but let's face it, he's getting older, and you've got young guys, and eventually that's what will happen. He will get phased out. Probably the game, there's one more game before the Sunday night game on NBC, Denver at New England. Being as this game is being played in New England, and I look for New England to play better than what they have in the last couple weeks. Even though they have won their games, they've had a letdown sort of in the second half. I think Denver has got some serious issues with quarterback Jake Plummer. I would be interested in seeing how he performs against this defense. But even though it isn't as strong a defense as it was before, he's still, you've still got the New England Patriots and all that they do offer defensively in their schemes, and they keep everything pretty. They swap in and out, swap players, and keep their players fresh. And I do think New England has the experience. As this game, like I said, as this game is being played in New England, there is thunderstorms being predicted for this. And probably the game of the week that I'm most likely interested in, more for a sentimental issue, is the New Orleans Saints are hosting the Atlanta Falcons in their first game back in the Louisiana Superdome. And for me, I gotta go with my head tells me to go with Atlanta for the running factor of Michael Vick, but I'm gotta be honest, I am rooting for the New Orleans Saints. And there's a guy that plays for Alabama, that played for Alabama, that is in New Orleans now. And I would be interested to see how Reggie Bush does in his first game at home in the Louisiana Superdome. I salute the people of New Orleans. I hope all the fans that can make it, even if you can't get tickets inside, at least go down there and enjoy the Superdome. I mean, I'm sure they'll have some things going on around there since it's the first game back down there, and you should be celebrated, and salute you guys. And I do pick you guys to win the game at least 24-17. That's my picks for the week. Hope everybody enjoyed it. I'm going to make a video here in about, when I get this one done, about what my week's been like and what I've been going through, and also just whatever else I feel like doing. I'm probably going to do a couple other videos too, so there are some more videos in the works, and stay tuned for week number 5 of the college football next week, and week number 4 of the NFL on the Gridiron. This is, once again, for On the Gridiron, this is Le Rocket saying, remember the two things: you can always rock on with NFL and college football, or just sports in general. And 2, if you got something to say, say it on YouTube. Peace out.